Hello. Hello, hello, hello. One, two. Yep. Let's move this a little bit. There we go. Hello, everybody. Let's check everything's all right. Just like this. Just like this. And here we go. So, hey, everyone. Welcome aboard. This is the Wednesday edition. Of the live show. I was getting Radio Thailand 15590. Not the best, but it was there. 15590 for Radio Thailand. So this is okay. This looks good. I think we're all set to go. And here we are. So welcome everybody. This is the Shortwave live show. We are here live twice a week on Wednesday for North America. That's Thursday for the rest of the world, pretty much. And we, of course, talk about shortwave radio. We're also here on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours Universal Time, and we talk about radio. So you guessed it. If you like radio, you're in the right place. It's a great place to be if you're a newbie, if you are an experienced ham operator, or a listener that's been doing it for 50 years. Everybody's welcome here. It's the place where we have fun with radio. Sorry, guys, I was just moving something around. Okay, so, anyways, this is the place to be. And, well, we talk about all aspects of radio, mostly shortwave in general, but, we dabbled into all sorts of different little places, including even the VHF, UHF range at times. And of course, this is a place where you can make friends, and we have a wonderful crowd that follows every week, joins the live shows, and you can, if you have a Gmail account, you can join with some of them in the chat room. Wonderful place to be with great people. And of course, when all of this is over, there's a Facebook group. Official SWL channel is the same name as the channel, the YouTube channel. And we just are here to entertain and have fun and just really find it kind of cool to do this every week. A few things that I will talk about, including this little thing that I've got today, which is the final edition, if nothing changes, of the World Radio TV Handbook 2022 that Sheldon Harvey has actually graciously delivered this morning. So we'll talk a little bit about it and what it is. Still have a lot of people that wonder, should I get this book or not? And it's not for everyone, and we'll kind of pinpoint who might be interested or not. It's interesting. I was watching. I came across last night a movie. We talk about movies that have radio related subjects in them, and of course, we often talk about different movies like Contact with Jodie Foster. But yesterday, one that has several beautiful radios to look at, and is interesting, and actually revolves around a radio station, and it's a horror movie from 1980, the original, The Fog, by John Carpenter, with the station KAB in Antonio Bay. And by chance yesterday, I was looking at what was available, and I started looking at that, and I took more notice of the radio environment because it works and revolves around a radio station. So radios are everywhere in that movie, and everywhere, including places that you just don't realize. So of course there's the radio station, but several nice of kind of what look like tube receivers also in several scenes, some transistor portables. Kind of interesting to see all the radios that are in there, and I'm like, wow, okay, this is kind of cool. They did get a nice bunch of radios for people for the movie, definitely. So and it's pretty cool. If you've never seen that movie, it's I think for the genre, it's one of the best of that type of movie. It's a horror flick, and it's really really nice. But if you like the radio aspect of what's in a movie, kind of nice to see all the radios in it. Uh, so I will talk about one thing that's coming that was shipped yesterday, and that I can't wait to have in my hands and play around with. It's been such a long time. We're going to talk about that and talk a little bit about old receivers and not just the prices, but if it's worth it or not to buy an old radio in general. And there's a lot of good radios brand new today that kind of put old radios to rest a little bit. But we're going to talk about that a little later. So let's say hello to everybody here. We have Andre, Cool AM Radio. Nice to have you here from Netherlands. We have Shortwave DX. Nice to have you on board. Rich in the Catskill Mountains of New York. Nice to have you on board. Here at the storm, we had about 4 inches of snow yesterday, 4 to 5 inches of snow. We weren't supposed to necessarily, but we did. And so it was white yesterday, but now it's already pretty much all melted here. So pretty cool for that. And before I forget, let's check the email. I tendency to forget people checking in from the email. And here we have Richard Lemke, that is in St. Albert. Says hello, Shell. From sunny St. Albert. Snowfall last night, 5 to 10 centimeters. Some had 20. All melted this afternoon. 6 Celsius. Go Oilers, go. What does the word UH mean, or huh? Well, the only thing that I can think of is of a hesitation of some sort. So it's nice to have you here, my friend, and always cool to have you on board. TVDXer, salut, ça va bien, j'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. We have James Farley, nice to have you here from Old Bridge, New Jersey. KD2GUZ, nice to have you on board. Gary24 Fan, nice to have you on board from Northern Maine. Really enjoying your past and present series. Although I never collected QSL cards, I enjoy seeing them and hearing the interval signals. Cool. So, because I did videos on my old QSL cards. They're on pretty much a lot of the videos are on the channel, but they're old. And I thought that it could be fun to revisit. But instead of just having some of the stories behind them from my point of view, I thought it could be kind of cool to have a little bit of history when possible, and interval signals, and a little bit of a clip from the old days for these stations. I thought that would be kind of an interesting twist to those QSL cards at the same time. So started having fun doing that, scanning the cards and or using the scans I already had, and then going online trying to find a little bit of information. Not always easy to find information about old stations that have gone from shortwave, also, but it's kind of cool. And I've got a lot of people having a lot of fun with that. Matt, MDK2, nice to have you on board from Denver, Colorado. We'll be eating dinner shortly, and we'll rejoin after. No problem. ManMax 2069, nice to have you here. Chuck, nice to have you on board. N5 KVO from South Texas, currently 81, and sunny skies. It says finally got a little rain last night. What else do we have here? James Farley, 6875, hearing at S5. Apparently a pirate. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's there. Here's some music. It's in the noise, but it's there. 6875 AM. So for those that don't have a single sideband receiver, you can still hear that pirate on 6875. Rob, nice to have you on board from Phoenix, Arizona. Paul, AA1SU, VT Radio. Nice to have you here from Northern Vermont. Power was out yesterday with the heavy wet snow. Oh. John Bierger, nice to have you here from Norway. Pretty cool. 9915 Sickle Radio. Let's check that out. 915 upper sideband. Oh man, he's really good. That's 9915 here. Look at that. That's pretty good. Something here. So pretty good signal from Sickle Radio Pirate on 9915 upper sideband here. What else do we have? James Farley asking if anybody had copied the message the other day on the 11175. Ham Bandit, nice to have you here. Chuck, nice to have you on board from Pennsylvania. DJW883 from Southeast Pennsylvania. Haluk, nice to have you here from Oakville, Ontario. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you on board from Wentzville, Missouri. WA0113 SWL. Bobby Burgess in Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Zen Faros following along with Antenna Melange and HF Plus Discovery and a Bolus 2. John Hummel Newell, VE5JHN, nice to have you on board. I'm Bandit is in Poland, Indiana. Nice to have you here. Throwing down some shortwave tonight with my mag loop antenna and the SDR. Cool. Via2 Esheti, salut Luc. Nice to have you on board. Papa, nice to have you on board. We have Paul from Southwest Michigan, Keegan DXer from Northwest Arkansas. We have Barry from with a Happy Wednesday. Nice to have you here, Barry. We have Mr. BDI. Nice to have you on board. We have Keegan that's having reception with his Ethan Grenick Edition Field BT radio and Ethan Grenick Edition satellite with SSB. Magazine 1976 from West Michigan. Sean Finnegan, nice to have you here from Massachusetts. We have Christian Marcoux from North Bay, Ontario. Salut, j'espère que ça va bien. Tristan from Newfoundland, nice to have you here. We have Skip and 2EI from the campground of Virginia. Nice to have you on board, Skip and 2EI. Hope you're having fun. PBRSTG, nice to have you here from the Green Mountains of Vermont. I decided to take the money I was going to use to buy the Grenade 800. Bought a Texan H501 that arrived today. You're going to be happy. It's a great radio, and that thing performs really, really well. Estrella Garcia, nice to have you here, Estrella. Papa, newer to the channel, always trying to learn. Do you work in this industry as a day-to-day job? I'm a YouTuber as a day-to-day job. This is my job. So that's pretty much it with this and the tech channel that I take care of also. Pretty much. Been 40 years in the hobby. Licensed Sam since December as Victor Echo 2 Zulu Zulu India. Joe Mama, nice to have you here. What else do we have? We have another Joe from Newmarket, Virginia. Finally, a Wednesday night with no band practice. Joseph, nice to have you here from San Francisco Bay, California. Francis Moore from Birmingham, UK. Rob, original movie, The Fog. I saw it as a kid, scared me. 35 years later, not so scary. Yeah, it still has that, when you close out the lights and you listen to that little piano and in that music in the background, still kind of creepy a little. Joe Rodman, nice to have you here from Chicago. Zen Pharaohs, keeping an old radio makes sense. Buying one, probably not. Papa is in Kitchener, Waterloo, Ontario area. Pretty cool. David Exter, you got to check that out. 1980, The Fog by John Carpenter. Do not mix with the other movie, which called The Mist by Stephen King. And also, The Fog has a remake from 2000 and something that I remember. I don't remember the exact year. But watch the original 1980 with from John Carpenter. It's a great movie. Lots of radios, and it relates around a radio station pretty much. Artist Out of Crafter's Kitchen. Nice to have you here from Massachusetts. Saw vintage receivers could be a topic tonight. Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Barry, good evening. Nice to have you here. Mr. BDI has a Radio Shack DX392. Coolium Radio says 68 Fahrenheit in the west part of the Netherlands. Here was kind of cool today. Carl Icon, nice to have you here from New York. We have Marc Jutra. Salut, nice to have you here. We have TM. If you have the time, could you talk a little bit about a Texan Pl 360? It's my first shortwave radio. The Texan Pl 360. Let me just remember what it looks like, because that's one model that I don't have necessarily. 60. So okay, yeah, it's like the it's like the long wave, shortwave, medium wave. It's like the 365, but without SSB, right? That's the thing. Yeah. Okay, so the 360 is the one. It's like a 365 without SSB. Okay. Yep. You know what? It's I don't own the 360, but it has the form factor of the 365 and the 368 that is later on. From if if I base myself just on the fact of that radio and how it probably does according to some of the things that I've read and everything, it probably isn't a bad radio. It just doesn't have SSB on it. I would probably put it in the same category as a PL 380 in a different form factor. So I'm sure it's not that bad of a radio, honestly. Simon Templar, nice to have you here, and owner of a new owner of a SDR Play RSPDX from what I see also. Hope you're happy with it. Have fun. Jason Francis, nice to have you here from Ottawa. We'll be in Ohio for the weekend with the XH Data D808. Cool. John Beckham, nice to have you here from Northeast Florida. Love your new series, Shortwave Radio Past and Present series. Cool. Thanks. Carl Icon, Other Radio Movies, Convoy, and Smokey and the Bandit. Brad in Texas, nice to have you here. N5LUL, WA5192 as WL. Nice to have you here, definitely. Let me try to go down here and see where we are. Okay. John Beckham, nice to have you here. Gabrielle, nice to have you on board from Uruguay. Nice to see all those videos with your Moo expedition. Tom DXer, WPE2Q80, nice to have you here from Hudson Valley, New York. Marc Jutra is VE2IES in Montreal. Cool. Nice to have you here. Toujours un plaisir d'avoir des gens de Montréal et du Québec. Moi, c'est VE2ZZI. Nice to have you here, my friend. Vodka cranberry, by the way. K6SUD. Nice to have you on board from South California. Anything else? Donald Hosmer, nice to have you here. W8SWL from Northern Michigan. We have TVDXer, sounds good. I'll let you know what I think of the movie. Cool. Andy New, nice to have you here from the UK. M7CON. Simon Templar, been having fun putting on the Ethon Elite 750 through its spaces. Pretty slick so far. Testing long wave, medium wave tomorrow night with the onboard rotatable antenna. Cool. Post some videos. Show us what your impressions. Hello there, Greg. Nice to have you here. Uncle Justin, KB2RMC in New York area. Catalin, nice to have you here from Germany. Pretty cool to have people from all over the world. Patriot RV Life, nice to have you here and from Texas. And we'll be refiring off his Royce 640 with a Golden Eagle mic. Some old stuff in there. San Diego Roland, nice to have you here from Uruguay, CX1DR. Pretty cool. Andy New, yes, new series is great. Brings back memories for me. Chris Powell, nice to have you here from Minneapolis, AE0IY. We also have Kathleen considering selling some radio equipment like the original Malahite DSP2 for an ICOM 705. So, JDA Dakota, really like your new video series, past and present of shortwave radio is certainly cool and reminds me of the stations that I have heard from in my past experience. Sheila, nice to have you on board from Belleville, Ontario, Canada. Have my late uncle's Realistic Astronaut 5 from the 70s, just picked up a St. G and ATS 405. Neat little radio. The 405 is a neat little radio. Works well. Jesse, nice to have you here from Minnesota. I-61, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Catalin, who covered the buzzer? There's always somebody doing something with the buzzer these days. V3 KRP, nice to have you on board. I never asked, does the ending of your call, did you choose it in the purpose of WKRP? Out of curiosity. V3KRP. What else do we have? Matt says Pirate Weed on 9915 upper sideband. That's what I was hearing. Yep. There. 9915. That does sound very weedy. Let's put it like this. Coffee Bibber, nice to have you on board from Wentzville, Missouri. Pretty cool. RGA Dakota says first shortwave radio, Realistic Astronaut 4. Pretty cool. GD3K Air Priest says yes, Canadian affiliate. Okay. Dimitri, nice to have you on board. Gustavo Bernandez, nice to have you here. Power blackout here in Caracas. Lots of stations coming in, clear, no interference. Yeah, that's what you get when you have no power. I guess us shortwave guys are the only ones that are happy when the power goes down in the neighborhood. So, hey, Greg, going to a swap meet with your cousin? Cool. Check it out. There are a lot of those ham radio swap meets that you can easily get, if you're careful, a nice radio for not a lot of money. That's probably the best place to buy. We're going to talk a little bit about buying old radios, but I think a ham fest and things like that are some of the best places to buy something at a decent price still. It's not like reaching the prices of eBay, which is completely nuts, honestly, for sure. Trucker Daddy, nice to have you on board. John in Quebec, from the older city in North America, St. John's, Newfoundland. Wow. Looking for recommendation for best antenna for RV life. You know what? An MLA30 would be a decent antenna. When you stop somewhere, it's easy to set up, and it's not too big, and probably is a nice little portable antenna. If you don't want to power it, if power is a problem, a U-loop could be an interesting antenna also to take with you on an RV, for sure. RJ Dakota, it's the Solar Flux 160. Yeah, the sun is going nuts. We're just gonna read here, as I'm probably at the bottom of the chat. Anyways, here. Just to tell you guys about solar activity, which is the sun. There's a big group of sunspots that is actually rotating into view, and here, if we look at the info, so solar activity is intensifying. The last 24 hours alone, the sun has produced more than 19 solar flares. The tally includes 6 M-class explosions and a powerful X2.2 class flare. So these are from the colossal sunspot complex of AR 2993 and 94 that was very active actually when it was on the other side of the sun. So pretty crazy, and so lots of activity here, and pretty crazy to see all the sun really being very, very active in the last few hours. We're getting up there, and that solar cycle is actually rising up at a much faster speed, which is very interesting. Kind of tells us that the next solar maximum possibly going to be a pretty good one. The other thing that I want to talk about is a little something that I'll be, of course, talking about when it arrives for sure. And here is the little something. Oops. Just gonna find it here, a picture. So here it is. This is what is coming. I talked about this radio a little bit in the past, but so this is what is coming. So this is um, an 80s portable radio. It's the Panasonic RFB 300. To give you guys a little bit of story behind it and why also I got it. So we talk about, purchasing old radios, and I will often tell most people that the prices that the old radios are today, you're better off buying something brand new. We've got some great radios today. And honestly, these old portables and those old receivers, today's portables perform as well, if not better, for the most part. It's purely in I would say, the sexiness of the older radios, and purely in the vintage receiver, to what they are, how they look and feel for the time, which absolutely has a big appeal. But if we just look straightforward at performance, buy a new radio and forget about old portables, and old radios at the price that they're sold today. Now, that said, I've got and purchased an old radio. So here's the thing. The Panasonic RFB 300, and some of you might have spotted it a little bit on my picture. So when I posted my picture on Facebook of my 21-year-old self, one of the things that I'm just going to go here and find that picture again. One of the things that you might not have noticed, because there's a lot of stuff in that picture, and let me just find it quickly here. There's this way to do it is like this, probably. Yeah, here we go. So that's the one that I posted on Facebook of my 21-year-old self with the Kenwood R5000 and all of that. But on the top shelf, just above my head and above the globe, look at that. There's an Panasonic RFB 300. I had that radio in 1991. And what happened is that that radio my dad purchased for like $200 or more. I don't remember the price, but it was kind of expensive at the time. And brought home, I don't know, somewhere maybe 1988, not 89. I remember listening to Shortwave on it in the backyard where I lived with my parents. And over years, I mean, it was there. Then my parents separated. I moved out with my mom, and I took the radio with me, but felt a little guilty of taking away a radio which my dad had purchased. There was no official word of mouth of whose radio it was. I was using it. I know he purchased it probably because he knew I was using these radios, but we never had a word of, is it mine? Is it yours? Whose radio is it exactly? And when my mom moved out and I moved out, what happened is, he was alone. He had a TV, but he didn't have a radio, and he didn't watch TV much at the time. I don't remember him watching TV pretty much. So what happened, when I would go visit, he would often be kind of, not listening to anything. And I thought, well, maybe a radio would be nice. Now, I did one big mistake when I did that. In reality, my dad did not, and I knew that he would never listen to shortwave. So, what I should have done at the time was to purchase a simple AM FM radio that works well, has good sound, and give him that. He would have been happy because that's what he was doing. He was listening to AM stations or FM stations. Um, so what happened is, I gave him back that radio, and he was happy and he was listening to his station, which was always pretty much always the same station. What happened, and I thought that someday maybe I'd get it back in some way. But what happened is that when he moved, he actually it was long periods of times where he wasn't home, and of course there was a burglary. And in the burglary, there was pretty much nothing important in that apartment. But in the burglary, one thing they did take is the radio. Probably guy probably saw it and said, "Oh, that's a cool radio. Maybe we can get a few bucks out of it." So, of course, when the burglary happened, the radio disappeared. That's where I realized that I should have purchased a much cheaper AM FM radio, which probably would never have been stolen in the first place. And, I would not have lost the Panasonic RFB 300, which had some kind of, when we talk about nostalgia, that radio had some nostalgia attached to it in my teenage years. And I remember this is the radio that I used to show my neighbor that was Greek, that we could hear Voice of Greece easily. And he was all amazed. And I remember with that radio listening to, and we didn't have air conditioning. And sometimes it was so hot in the home that I would sleep outside on the balcony. And what happened is that when I would sleep out on the balcony, I would bring that radio because it would run on batteries. And I'd listen, for an hour and a half of Radio Australia before, going to sleep, and waking up in the morning on the balcony and turning it on 95.80 with Radio Australia again. So, of course, it has some sentimental value, I would say. That's where we got to be careful with these old radios, especially when we already owned one in the past. So, for some reason, I decided to go and check out, maybe because I'd seen something or we talked about it. I decided to look at what portables are available on eBay, and what are the prices and so on. And I started Googling or eBaying, searching on eBay for all sorts of old radios that I owned, radios that I didn't never had, and look at the prices, which were totally crazy. I saw a Panasonic RF 2800 for like $1,000. It was like, that's not worth that at all. I saw so many things. And when I actually searched for Panasonic RFB 300, out of curiosity, I wanted to see. I didn't plan to buy when I actually searched for it. I simply searched for it, wanting to see how much people are selling them today. What price are they going for today? And one of the biggest problems on eBay and of any of these sellers is always putting vintage in front of every radio, which is not the case. The Panasonic RFB 300, I had seen it, not just, I had one. It was a model that was somewhat popular. There were quite a lot of them around the world that were sold over time. It had 2 or 3 different names depending on where you were in Europe or North America and so on. So I looked, and the first 3 offerings. First of all, one of the first things that you do here in Canada, especially with the rate, the exchange rate, and with all the fees that could come with buying a radio, you try to buy it from a Canadian seller. I've pretty much done that now. I try to avoid buying from the US because of all the surprise fees that now we get and the taxes to pay. It gets so expensive. You'll find a good deal, but then when it arrives here with, if they send it by UPS and then they send it, and then we have to pay the taxes and all, it's like that good deal is a bad deal in the end. So I started looking. There were 4 that popped up on eBay. 4. 3 from the US, 1 from Ontario, Canada. The 3 US were above $200. 2 of them were actually kind of in a bid state. You had to bid to see the highest bidder would win. And they were all, these two bids were above 200. One was like 225, the other one was something like 250 US, which I thought these people are crazy to pay that price for a radio like that. Actually, that is more expensive than what it probably sold for back in the 80s. And one was a buy now offer, but it was like 279 plus something like $80 shipping. It's like, yeah, right, I'm going to pay that. And so it was like, I'm not buying that. And then I saw the fourth one that was there, was from Ontario. The guy was asking one, so in his ad it says tested, fully works, and has a little bit of cosmetic wear, but and came with a power cord, and it had maybe 15 pictures where it showed the battery compartment, the back, the sides, the front, and he was saying in the description that it's fully tested. He knows it works well, has good sound. So it's like, okay, looks interesting. Now the guy has sold other stuff and is a general is everybody seemed to be happy with, very positive what they purchased. So he's asking, and that's where my first surprise. He's asking 125, which is much lower than everybody else, and he's asking 125 plus 25 for the shipping. So I'm thinking, okay, that's 150 Canadian for an old radio like that. And I wasn't very fond of paying $150 for that. So I thought I'm gonna actually offer him a bid, and I offered to pay 125, shipping included. And I thought he's gonna refuse, but hey, it's worth trying. Maybe he's gonna say yes. Who knows? And about a half an hour later, I get an email and I look, and the guy says, "Yep, it's okay, sold. If you want to pay now." So I thought, 125, shipping included. Why not? Why not? I'm gonna get back the Panasonic RFB 300, which I find very sexy and very beautiful, and so I'm happy. And he seems very honest. He shipped the radio. I got a tracking number. And I noticed that, I noticed he sent me another message to say, look, I'm sorry. When I sent you the radio, I forgot to put the electric cord in the box with the radio. So what he said is, look, I'm sending you the electric cord separate package. I'm so sorry for that. And so today he sent a separate envelope with the power cord on it. So, just looking at that is like, well, I think the guy's honest. He could have just said, well, forget it. I forgot it, forget it. But no, he told me, look, I'm sorry, I forgot it. So, I'm kind of anxious to get it. I'm, a little, can't wait to see it here and make videos, a little bit of videos, and comparing that old radio with today's receivers. I know that it drifts a little bit. I've owned it and I've used it, so I do have some experience with that radio, and so this is going to be kind of fun to see. And I'll have one of my old radios back. Next, well, probably like something like the Panasonic RF 2800 or whatever was that number that I had. It would kind of be nice to have one of those. Frank Carolyn from Venice, Florida. Nice to have you here. Barry says he missed the. Oops, forgot this. Let me go back up. There's a little missed out here. Let me just try to find where I was because I lost my spot. I hate when that happens. I hate it. So, okay, here we go. Skip into EI says on his RV he uses a ham sticks and an end fed half wave. So, Barry, so missed the renewal date for my GMRS license in March. The FCC dropped the fee from 70 to 35 April 19th. So the new call is WRCQ 947. Cool. Santiago says power outages are a blessing for AM and shortwave listening, and I have some video scanning AM while on power blackout. Results are incredible. It's tremendous. The level of RFI noise we are dealing every day. Definitely. Chastank, nice to have you on board from Louisville, Kentucky. Michael, nice to have you here. Craig N74, what's the proper gauge of length of wire to make an antenna with alligator clip to use on the whip? The gauge or the size of the wire doesn't matter. What matters the most is the length. As long as you could possibly put the wire out, the longest the better in general is what we do. So whatever. Andy New, highest solar flux since 2004. Hand-banded compact 10 shortwave model, great for RV. John Beckham, WWV on 25 megahertz in Northeast Florida. Pretty cool. Merrill, KK4HFG, nice to have you here from New Mexico. 2 weeks will be saying good evening from Sumter, South Carolina, as I'm moving back there. Cool. Santiago is an astronomer myself, and I'm very interested in sun activity. Pretty cool. Lots of really nice, fun stuff. Handy new classic Panasonic. Yeah, Sheila says, "Ooh, shiny." Carl Icon, things I don't like about my old vintage shortwave radio: limited shortwave tuning range, 1.6 to 1 to 18 only, no sidebands, analog slide rule tuning, so no scanning except manually. Yeah, a lot of the radios we put up with back in the days, we probably would not put up with today, as they're so limited. There were so many things in the radios back then that today, I look at my realistic DX100. I would not know anything about shortwave, and I would turn that thing on today. I probably would have spent an afternoon and thought, well, okay, that's kind of rather bad and really nothing on the air. Performance of it is so bad that the only reason I stayed in the hobby pretty much was because back then there were so many stations that were strong that he was getting stuff anyways. But man, the drifting and all, crazy. Dimitri, a lot of good stuff. People data record pirate radio station on 7055 lower sideband. Nope, wire antennas cannot mess up the radio. At the worst, if it's too long and you got some strong stations, it's going to overload the radio, but it doesn't break it. You're not going to break the radio with a wire antenna. Don't worry about that. John Beckham, 5990, good in Northeast Florida, which I believe is China radio via Cuba. James Farley, I had one of those, very unstable tuning, but great sound. Drifted a lot. What I remember particularly is how finicky that big tuning dial to get a precise tuning on something was. I do remember that. And of course, there was that drifting, which was there. But yeah, radios of the 80s. That radio is a Panasonic RF-B300. Merrill, KK4HFG, has got a Kenwood TS120S as his primary ham rig, manufactured in 1980. Cool. Patrick, nice to have you here from Washington. Craig, yeah, the University of Twente in the Netherlands. It's a great one to tune for an SDR. Artist Out of Crafter's Kitchen, welcome back to the Panasonic world. My RF2200 has been a true companion for the last 45 years. Can't wait to see your B300 up and running. Radio nostalgia sometimes is worth the premium. Yeah, it's not that it's given, but it's it's nice, you know. So it's a RF Bravo 300, RFB 300. Am I receiving anything on 6165? Oops. I put 6765. Nope, I'm receiving this on 6160. And the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt. That's WBCQ on 6160, but I'm not getting anything on 6165. Patriot says nostalgia costs us. Yep. Unfortunately, sometimes it does. But I'm going to be happy. I know I'm going to be happy when I get it, or maybe not. Maybe I'll be tuning in. It's like, wow, that was crappy for the day. It sure has a very sexy look to it, though. It's kind of one of those nice old radios. Matt, RWM on 9996. This year I've been copying it a lot earlier than in the springtime past. Yeah, something to do with the solar activity, probably. Wonder if I get it here, 9996. CW. Nope. Not coming here. Mike WX50. Nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. Just watched my old school friend win the big prize on Wheel of Fortune. Oh, wow. Cool. Andy New, nostalgia isn't what it used to be. Yeah, for sure. You know, I would not have, it made a difference, but at 150, I don't think I would have said yes. At 150, I think I would have just left it there. I would have thought, the hell with it. There's a limit to, I like old radios. There's nostalgia around it, but there's a limit to paying for that. And I'd rather spend it on something new if that is too expensive. One of the things a lot of you have been asking me is, are you going to get the Angrongda HRD 747? Look, I got to find a place where it has a decent price, because nowhere did I see it. I don't see it a lot, first of all. So this is one thing that bothers me, is that it seems very difficult to find. And the places where I find it, well, I mean, that thing is above 200 Canadian dollars. That's too expensive. I'm not going to pay that for that little thing. Especially since I have the 737 here, which is the crappiest thing I've ever used. So, VHF is unusable. Shortwave has FM breakthrough everywhere. That's what I'm scared of the 747. So I ain't gonna pay 200 plus for a radio like that. But if I do find it at a decent price, I will get one. I want to test that. Looks interesting. Trigger Daddy says, still stuck on his 10-watt Baofeng. Let the trolls loose. It all depends on what you want it for. I61 says, watch it. Maybe the same radio was stolen. Who knows? Maybe he went for a ride somewhere else in Canada and came back. Unfortunately, I would have to remember and note the serial number off of the radio from back in the day. So, but it's a nice radio. I can't wait to check it out. Dimitri, you'll have a nice, good radio. J Projects, nice to have you here from San Diego, California. Mike WX50, I didn't know you could watch Wheel of Fortune on YouTube, but he mentioned he was told that his name, Kevin Dodge. Oh, okay. Mad Radio DXer UK, good morning. Nice to have you here from Europe, where it's really, really late. And a new Panasonic RF 9000, one of that fetches silly money. There's a lot of them that fetch for like crazy. My WX50, I got lucky to buy my Grande Satellite 800 for 200 on eBay. You know, there was a time for, um, there was a time for, where when eBay was actually very reasonable. It was more like a swap meet or a hamfest. Prices were down to earth. You could get a decent used radio for a decent price. That's where I got the Patrolman SW60 from Realistic. Got that thing for like $20, $25 plus, because it's a big radio, like $25 shipping, which I was expecting because it's such a big radio that, shipping was not, had to be a little expensive, but, it was a decent price. Today, forget it. You can't find anything that really can buy. It's completely nuts on eBay now. It's interesting because when we think about it, when from 2000 to 2010, that era, that period when eBay was all out there and everything, and I started buying stuff, eBay was a place where I would go buy all the time. Yeah, I looked yesterday at my eBay buying, and I purchased something like 500 or 600 things on eBay, and that's a lot. But all of that was done in the early eBay years, and I would buy shortwave radios. I would buy old radios. I that's where I got the pair of TRC. What are they? 234, the talkies that you see in the Stranger Things series for almost nothing. At the time they were selling them at decent prices. It was expensive, almost more was the shipping most of the time because the prices were low. And what I noticed is that until like maybe 2012, 2013, I would buy stuff off of eBay. And starting 2013, 2014, I quickly buy less and less and less. And I don't buy stuff off of eBay pretty much now. I have actually, I got this Panasonic. Last time I purchased off of eBay was the Chinese clone malahite thing that took something like 6 months to arrive. It was so long that I asked for a refund on that thing, which I got. And the guy said, if you get it, please, contact us so you can pay us. And when I got it, I was about to pay them, but when it actually had that defect that it didn't want to charge, and I had to open it and play around with it to be able to use it, I thought, well, forget it. I'm not going to pay for that defective crap. But I'm still happy to have it because once I've actually soldered the wires to plug it in on an external power pack, it works great. And you guys have seen the videos with the noise reduction feature, which is quite surprising, honestly. So I've pretty much gone off of eBay now. Sean says I saw a realistic shortwave patrolman at a antique store for $16, but it was missing a light button. I don't know if that could be repaired. At $16, even if it had the light button missing, you should have purchased that. That's not expensive, and you would have had a nice old radio. Dimitri, I was bet on eBay the same kind of Panasonic Sierra 300, but I have not won yet. Michael Lancher, way too much. Lots of stuff are way too expensive. Absolutely. John, WPE4KNC from Virginia. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Let me try to go down. I called Andrew with radio people. Their word is good. Yeah, 420. Yep, yep. Bonne nuit, TVD Extra. À samedi. Fais attention à toi. What else do we have? Michael says, good story about the shortwave radio. Yo, Bobby, what are you doing, Bobby Burgess? You're blocking Patriot RV life. Be careful what you're doing, man. Landy says, who knows, maybe you'll buy your stolen radio back. Any distinguishing marks on it that you remember? There would be one thing that I remember. When my dad got that RFB 300, I was the guy that was always like tinkering with the radios and playing sometimes with stuff. The S meter was unable to go up to the top of the scale. When my dad got the radio, I remember that the S meter would stop around S9 on the strongest signals, which was impossible. Those signals were so good on my DX100 and after on my DX302. Those two radios were showing, S9 plus 30 or S9 plus 20. And I figured that on the very strong signals, the S meter was not calibrated well. I opened the radio. I opened the RFB 300, and I actually found where there was a pot that you could actually turn a little bit to change the accuracy of the S meter. And I didn't, do any scientific anything. I took one of the strongest stations in Montreal, which should have been S9 plus 30, and I just turned it until it was full scale. And I thought, well, it's not a scientific measurement, but I know that station on AM is so strong. It has to be full scale. But when I did that, I accidentally scratched the S meter's plastic surface. There's a scratch on it, which is diagonal. So it would be kind of funny if there would be a scratch on the S meter. I would wonder if maybe that could be the Panasonic that was stolen. But that would probably be the only thing I could check out, honestly, because there is nothing. In the later years, what I would do, and I did that when I got here, when I bought electronic stuff, I sometimes when I would open them for something, I'd put my initials on the plastic case with a pen, with a marker. So depending if the case is black, I would put I had a silver marker. I would put my initials in silver. And I did that because I thought one day if I would, my stuff gets stolen and it gets into a pawn shop here near where I am, if I can recognize it, knowing that it's mine, well, I could tell the cops, I know it's mine and I can prove it because there should be my initials in silver lighting and silver pen inside it. That would be one way to identify that. Yeah, those are really mine. I did that on some of the stuff that I had here. I did that on my Marshall guitar amp. I remember I did that on quite a few things. I don't remember which ones though, because I did it on some and did not on others. So at some point, it was like, oh, I don't remember which ones have my initials on it inside now. But it was kind of every time I would open any electronic thing for some reason, I would put my initials inside the case. So like that, it was like, well, whatever happens, I know they are mine or that I own them in the past because my initials are on them. But one thing for sure, I will be looking at the S meter to see if there's a scratch. I think that's the first thing I'm going to look at the box. Alexander, Sony shortwave radioactive antenna AN-LP1. How exactly do these work? Well, these are small loop antennas with amplifiers. So basically, the LP1 is simply a little loop antenna, magnetic loop that is amplified. There's an amplifier in it, a low noise amplifier. So, in an environment, and especially back then, if you didn't have any place for an antenna, they would work decently and actually getting enough signal. So whatever signal it could get for the small size, it could still get strong because it amplified it. Are they good for portable radios? Well, I've only on the Sony active antenna, I've only heard good things with them personally. All right, JD Dakota, 18900 coming in last night, about 01 UT. Wow. Merrill, KK4 HFG, very cool. Okay, Keegan, talking to Keegan, sorry. Greg, did you hear Jerry Victor Doucette, the rock and roll legend, died? Yes, I did, my friend Greg. I saw that go through Facebook yesterday, I believe. Sunny LM, nice to have you here from Sydney, Australia. PR 4470, nice to have you here from Dallas, Texas. We have Kong Lives, nice to have you here from Lima, Peru. I miss hearing something from Peru on shortwave. Long time ago, I've actually heard Peru on shortwave. Zen Pharaohs, in honor of your reacquisition of a classic Panasonic, I got out my RFB 45, and I'm getting Trenton military weather on 6754, as well as on the HF Plus Discovery. That was one of the radios, the RFB 45. I remember that was one of the radios I was eyeing a lot back then. I wonder what that is, and I remember those look nice. The RFB 45. Let's show everybody what that is, as we do talk a little bit today about vintage radios. And I have my own take on the old radios, and don't spend too much money on an old radio. RFB 45. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. I remember those Panasonic. That one's a little. Let's try to get one that's a little better. Forbidden. What do you mean forbidden? It's forbidden. That's the back of the radio. Here's, I think this one's going to be nice. So the RFB 45. I remember looking at those back in the day and wondering, man, I should check out. I should check out some of those. These were radios that were interesting. I would have had probably more shortwave receivers if I hadn't split my money. Hey, Bobby Burgess, last warning. Check what you're doing, because you're blocking Patriot RV messages. I'm going to remove your moderator status, man. Okay. So in the 90s, particularly, I would have had a chance to get a lot more shortwave radios. But what happened in the 90s, in late 80s and early 90s, when I got my Kenwood R5000, I started investing more in scanner radios. I got the scanner bug and the scanner craze that everybody had back then. So I wanted to have scanner radios And those were very expensive. The good ones were very expensive, more than a lot of shortwave radios. So what happened is I maybe purchased a couple of shortwave, 2 or 3 shortwave radios throughout the 90s in general, but purchased probably a dozen, if not more, scanners back then that were very high cost. If it had not been for the scanner craze, probably I would have purchased a way more shortwave receivers. And the Panasonic, the RF, the 45, the RF 65, I believe is the other model. There were quite a few radios that I would have purchased back then. The radios I purchased in the 90s, that's where I got my realistic or the Radio Shack DX398, which is the original St. G and ATS 909. Unfortunately, I don't have it here, but I had a Grundig. What was the model? The Grundig Yacht Boy 400, I believe. I had that one, which was kind of nice. I had purchased it because the reviews of the Passport to World Band radio reviews were good. And that's what made me buy those back in the day. I bought that one. I bought it cheap, and I still have it here. And St. G and ATS 800A. That was crappy as hell. What else did I purchase in the 90s as a shortwave portable? I don't remember what else I could have purchased. That was kind of the 90s were the low point for shortwave radios because I was purchasing a lot of scanner radios. And of course, there was the ups and downs of the 90s for me because in the 90s, I was working, I was out of the job, I was working, I was out of the job. So, of course, when you have no job, it's not time to invest in a $400 radio. And when you're working, well, I would buy a scanner radio. So that was pretty much more of the 90s. There was more scanner radios. Um, I had this craze of getting more and more scanner radios. I would actually even say that for a time in the 90s, a lot of my shortwave listening went pushed aside because I was listening and tuning around on scanners instead. There was truly a craze of scanner radios back in the day. My first scanner radio was that little 10 channel that was on that old picture. But then I had Realistic Pro 2022. From 2022, I moved on to a Pro 2006 and sold the 2022 to my best friend, Stefan, because he wanted to have one. And that would give me a part of the money for the Pro 2006, which was more expensive. In the portables, I had a Pro 51 that I really liked. It had a nice design, but the receiver part was amazingly good. Then I got a Pro 26, the crappiest thing ever. It was overloading everywhere. Pro 26 was the first portable that Radio Shack, I believe, had that went up to 1.3 gigahertz. And when you get hooked to that nonsense of what they're trying to tell you, it's like, oh, that one goes to 1.3 gigahertz. There's a lot more stuff you can listen to. Yeah, there was nothing else. If you had a scanner that already went up to the 800 megahertz range, you weren't getting any much more in the 1.3 gigahertz, if not at all. And then I got the Pro 43, which was really good because I wanted the airband for military on the UHF range. Pro 92 that I got ripped off by my ignorant shipping. Story of it is amazing. It's looking at me over there on the shelf. Pro 92 is a scanner radio that has trunk capability. Trunking is still today something that that a lot of repeaters use. So trunking in the commercial radio sector is a way of adding many companies to the same repeater, but with a computer controlled way of who has access to the repeater. So in the old days, like in the 80s, if you had a company, you had your own repeater because it was the only way you could talk with your own people. And of course, that was expensive because that meant that a shipping company had to invest in putting up a repeater and in the radios for your own fleet of trucks, for example. Trunking was a solution for that. It's, well, how about we put up a repeater, you invest in, the radios and the fees for using our repeater, but our repeater actually is shared with multiple people. So trunking does that, is that different companies can use the same repeater because they have their own unique code. So when you key to call your home company, the code that is sent from your transmission only unlocks the radios from that company, not anybody else. And add the fact that these could use, have multiple people at the same time on the same repeater, meant, okay, there's like, 10, 12, 15 frequencies. As long as we don't have more people than the frequencies available, you can be multiple people talking at the same time from different companies, and only these people hear their own people. The only problem with trunking is that if everybody tries to transmit at the same time, now that won't work because there's a limit to the amount of people in the same repeater. So trunking meant that it was difficult to follow conversations because when you punched in the frequencies of a repeater, you might be hearing UPS guy, then you'd be hearing another company, and then you're hearing a plumber, and then it's like there was a nonsense in there. It's like, yeah, it's all jumping around on different frequencies when they talk. So you can't follow a conversation easily on trunk frequencies. So when trunk scanners arrived, I was like, oh, this is cool. I can actually program trunk frequencies and follow conversations. So the Pro 92 from Radio Shack was one of the first trunk receivers that were there, but there were not any trunk scanners in Canada at the time. And we're talking 1990. Let me try to think it through here. 1994, 5, 6, somewhere around there. Probably. I would say somewhere around there, maybe a little later. Let's say 97, 98 in any case. So what happened is I saw in an ad for Universal Radio that, well, let me rethink the dates. Has to do with purchasing it. I think it was the first time that I had purchased something through the internet, if I'm not mistaken. So it would be like a late 90s. Anyways, whatever. I purchased it off of, I believe, Universal Radio in the US. They were shipping that with UPS, which is a big no-no for anyone here in Canada. If you don't know about it already, do not have anything shipped from the US to Canada with UPS because you're going to get a hell of a lot of fees to pay, and it's going to be crazy. So what you want is USPS, US Postal Service. So I got it through UPS. It was very expensive. That thing cost like 500 Canadian dollars. at the time, but I wanted it so bad that I thought I'm going for it. Not only did I pay 500 Canadian dollars for it, when UPS got here, they said, "Well, you owe us 125 bucks in fees." I was not expecting that at all. So now you're with a radio that costs you 625 bucks. So I got totally screwed with that radio back in the day. And I think about it today, I'm like, oh man, what a lesson that was. But hey, I had it and I started playing around with it and doing, listening to the trunk frequencies, and it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. You could see the ID tags and yeah, okay. But at least I had fun with my $625 scanner. That was not worth that at all. What else do we have? What else do we have? Met MDK2 Gander Volume coverable on frequencies 6604, 10051, and 13270. 13270. What else do we have? Michael Andrew, the drink today is vodka cranberry juice. Television archives. I found a photo of my grandfather listening to his national NC57. He was really into it. Wish I could share the photo. If you have it, you can send it to my email, official shortwave radio at gmail.com. And if anybody has any special picture of a radio or something they want to share radio wise, send it in. I'll check it out with the tablet and show everybody for sure. John Beckham, Daisy the cat is in the lap, wanting to say meow to you as she is watching the live shortwave stream. Cool. Steve Dodge, eBay got greedy and jacked up all of the fees and required PayPal because they bought it and used to sell on eBay as well. Yeah, I wonder what other people are doing today when I think about it. When I used to do my tech duties, I I had a few of my clients that were eBay sellers actually at the time. I wonder if today things are more if they're still doing that today. One of the guys here had what he would sell was hockey memorabilias, but really, really, hard to find stuff. He would spend all weekends at flea markets and all sorts of garage sales to find odd stuff to sell, and then make a living out of that. Yarabamba. Nice to have you here. Have you tried the Ethon Elite 750? Nope, never did. Never had one. Tom, nice to have you here from Ohio, where the reception has been great. Cool. Landy, where do you keep all this stuff? Do you even know what you have anymore? Yeah, I have a pretty good idea. Actually, most of it is getting back on the shelves here. And so they're all in general not that far. The only thing that I still have to get out is I got 2 boxes of radio here that I need to get back out because when I moved things around and there were a lot of things happening last year, I had to put these in a box. But we're going to take them back out, and the shelf that I have in front of me here is going to be dedicated. Every shelf is going to be dedicated to only radios, and what's in there will be moved around in different places, whatever it is that I need to move around. I got a printer. The wireless printer can be, anywhere as long as it's just plugged in. It's a wireless printer, so printer scanner. So and everything should be in. I think everything will fit in the shelf here. If not, I'll use a little bit more of other shelves. I got a table back here that's going to have a couple of radios, mainly the old the two the Kenwood and the ICOM here, basically. Okay, no, I saw the political side, and that's fine. That's fine, Matt. We no politics here. That's for sure. I just didn't see any of the political stuff at first. So if there was political stuff, that's fine. That's fine. But and all the comments that I would see blocked, because I always look at the blocked comments to see what was blocked, because I know sometimes you can by accident block stuff, but I did see the political comment, and that one definitely needs to be removed. So that's fine. That's fine. What else do we have? Alexander Biz says, I'm looking for an adapter for an external aerial. Can I show you a photo? Send it to the email that I just posted, officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. But yeah, if anything politics is fine, you can just remove it. No problem. No politics here at all of any kind, by the way. Michelangelo 11-meter band, California to Illinois. Wow. Francis Moore, 50/50 on eBay, bought a Yaesu FT818, but came with no power pack. So I got to buy a power pack for 50 pounds. Yeah. So it doesn't get that great of a deal after a while. Gustavo Bernandez, hearing 9940. Yep, WTWW out of the US. IRAT 61, good evening. Mad Radio DXer. Got my Sony and ICOM radios on eBay some years back for reasonable prices just before it went crazy. A shame prices went too high, as it could deter anyone wanting to get into the hobby. And one of the things also that I would say, which is even more of a problem for me, that you try to sell something for a too high of a price is one thing. What I'm scared of is a person with no knowledge, but that definitely has enough money to buy something that is expensive. I was talking about the Ethon S350DL on Amazon. There was a picture of a radio that looked like that, but they had brushed off the Ethon brand, so we couldn't see any brand or model number of any kind. But the radio looked like it was a picture of the S350DL. And they were selling that for $1,150. And I was thinking, what if someone that has a lot of money decides that he wants to buy a good radio and sees that and thinks that, oh, it's $1,100. That must be one hell of a good radio, because it just doesn't know better. I'm scared of those that are going to be screwed by those people. Not by us. We are, we know it. We know about it. We know what's a decent price. We know what's a bad price, because we're in it. I would be very, very sad. I would be very, very sad to see somebody like come here and say, hey, I bought this amazing radio. It's $1,500 on Amazon, because Amazon also, you got to be careful what you get there, and end up looking at, well, you got a $99 radio, which is an average radio. It's okay, but you got screwed. And that would make me sad to see that. I'm sure it's not going to happen a lot, but if it happens just once, it's already one time too much, one time too many. Frank Campbell, can you suggest things we can listen to nowadays? I miss BBC Radio Moscow. Well, BBC you can hear. It's still on the bands. You just got to find the frequencies. I can't suggest things to listen to because it's a little different depending on where we are, and depending on in Europe and the West Coast, the East Coast. Um, to give you an idea, a day of radio listening for me will bring me, the BBC World Service will bring me NHK Radio Japan in English, will bring me Voice of Turkey, Radio Romania, the relays from WRMI, Radio Prague, Radio Slovakia, Radio Tirana, RE Argentina, and other types of broadcasts also that are through there. It will bring me the Voice of America. It will bring me, quite a few things. Vatican Radio. That all is available in English and is surprisingly easy to listen to and that's the big if, your noise environment isn't too high. That is the big problem. Tuborg Tim says you need to be fluent in Spanish to enjoy shortwave in North America. Not true. There's some shortwave stuff in Spanish, definitely, but not true. Just take a radio somewhere where there's no noise, and you're going to hear a lot of English language broadcasts. It's just that they're not broadcast towards us. And what happens is that because we all have a high noise level, it washes out the possibility to easily listen to. On the last show, we were talking about BBC on 15070 back in the 80s. That wasn't a particularly good signal. It was decent, but it's because the noise was so low, it was easy to hear. Today, that same signal, we would have a hard time with it. So it just shows you that it's really the noise that's the biggest problem for us. That noise is killing the hobby and killing our received capability. So when I hear somebody's like, I don't hear anything, it's like, yeah, too much noise. Because there's a lot more than you think that you can hear on the bands. In an evening like tonight, like right now, 0130, there should be on 5850 or 5800, sorry. There, 5800. The Voice of Mongolia is in English right now. 5800. In North America, a lot of us should be hearing that. Maybe not everybody. 5800. I just kind of broadcast towards the south, but yeah, 5800 is an example. There's a lot more than what people give credit for that is available in English. I have, of course, if you know more than one language, you're privileged on shortwave. You're privileged of hearing a lot more stuff. And so what happens is that the more you know language, I know French. Well, I'm privileged because in the afternoon I have a mix of English and French broadcasts that I can go through. Pretty much. Frank Campbell, 9940 is WTWW out of Tennessee. Keegan DeExter had to go on eBay to buy my Sony Trinitron 13-inch from August 2000 for $200 in January. Jeffrey Porter, 87LN, nice to have you on board from Aden Island. Zen Ferreros had a couple of Sony active antennas for portable, and I would rather have an MLA 30 plus any day of the week. So, different antennas, they are active, but the MLA 30 goes outside, so it probably gets even more signal, I would guess. Frank Campbell is in Oklahoma City. John, I have a Sony LP1, works well with all my shortwave radios, so that's cool. Anything else? Let's try to go down. Mark has a Panasonic RFB 65 somewhere. I like the somewhere. Get that thing out and have it working, man. Zen Faros RFB 45 is a medium wave gold mine because of the big ferrite. So that's interesting. That's interesting. What else do we have? Dimitri, Joel, you have to make your sign, your name inside the battery compartment. Yeah, but I always put them more inside the radio itself because I was like, you can take it out or something. It's okay. It's okay, guys. If Patriot RV got political, it's fine to have blocked. That's fine. Sorry, Bobby. Didn't mean to get mean. It's just that the what I would see was okay. So I'm gonna mind my business. I'm sorry. I put you guys moderators. You know what you're doing. It's just because in the last few months, what happened is um, it's just that it happened quite a few times that people by accident were getting things out, and it was just because their phone was in their pocket and stuff like that. And I thought, because of what I saw, I thought that was the case. But absolutely no politics, no problem, no problem. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna mind my own business. I'm sorry. Want me to go away? What else do we have? Tanim, it's nice to have you here. What else do we have? What else do we have? Ken Lansing had a Radio Shack 397, but ever since I moved, I can't find it. Maybe my sister threw it out. Oh no, that is bad. But yeah, that's fine. If there was political comments, no problem, guys. You're doing your job. It's all right. I'm gonna mind my own business from now on. Mark Jutras still has his grinding Yardboy 400. What else do we have? Barry, yeah, I want a Texan 501 next, but as I'm on a budget, SDR is looking pretty good for me right now. SDRs are good, and you're gonna have fun. Zen Farrows, you mentioned grinding Yardboy 400. Well, I have that too. Very good portable for the day. Only downside is 6 AA batteries. What I regret about the Yardboard 400. Well, I don't. Yeah, no. You buy stuff, and because it costs a lot of money, I had that little moment where I sold a few of my shortwave radios. When I got my, when was it? Somewhere in the early 90s, when the Yardboy 400 was popular. What happened is I bought one, and I listened to shortwave with it. I was happy. Um, one of my uncles that would repair radio and TVs and VCRs, had a repair shop, saw it, and at the time I don't remember what radio I purchased, but I was kind of a little strapped for cash, and he looked at it and says, "Oh, nice radio," and I said, "Oh well, you know, if you want it, how much would you out?" So he offered me like 100 or something, and I said, "Okay, it's yours." What is sad, and it's something you can do. What is sad about it is the the um, he died maybe 2 or 3 years after he got a radio, and when he died, I knew that all the stuff he had in his repair shop, because I knew that the radio was in a repair shop, and all the repair shop stuff would go away. Um, but your uncle dies, you're gonna go and ask for, oh well, I sold that radio to you, my uncle, and can I have it back? You don't want to do that. It kind of feels weird, and so it's like, I remember I was at a funeral looking at him, and as I was looking at him in my mind, it was like, yeah, there's a Yacht Boy 400 that's gonna need a home now. Would love to have it back, but am I technically at the funeral going to ask, can I go get my Yacht Boy 400? I'm going to give the $100 back. No, you just shut up and go to the funeral. But, I don't know where that radio, what happened to it. Honestly, I have no idea where that went. I hope it has a good, if there's something that's going to actually ease my mind, I just hope it has a good home. That's all. What else do we have? Klaus purchased the Texan 330 plus the ATS 25 because of me. Cool. Hope you're having fun with that. Hope you're having fun with that. Mary LaBelle, listening to Hal Turner in the moment. On what frequency and what station? How? Let us know. Frank Campbell, I still use the ICF 2010 and the Shortwave 77. Mark Cope, RFB 45 and Yardboy 400 look really similar. What else do we have? Migrated DX, or yes, from the early 90s, I was also more into listening to emergency services, radio phones for ship, marine comms, taxis, CBers, and a lot more. And I think a lot of us had that moment where we had the scanner craze where you could listen to Curtis phone and stuff, Jim, nice to have you here from Rhode Island. What else do we have? 11 radios. 501X will put a smile on your face. It seems to be the one radio that really does it all so well. The fact that it doesn't mute while the knob's tuned, triple conversion makes it sweet. Only thing that is sad is that it doesn't have RDS on FM, which would be probably a nice thing to have. And actually, I got the WRTH here, and they have a review of it, and that's what they say. They find it a great receiver, but they just don't. They find it sad that it doesn't have the RDS on FM. What else do we have? I'll see the problem with the word trunk. 11 radios. I fall in love with each and every radio I own. It really is easy for me to forget the little features of each, so I tend to only bust one when I use it for a while, then another when I get bored. What else do we have? Ron Seal, nice to have you on board from Montreal. What else do we have? Oh yeah, the custom fees and the brokerage fees are completely crazy on UPS. It's really, really crazy. I don't know how they decide those fees, but it's just crazy. Rick, nice to have you on board from Milwaukee. Nice to have you on board from Milwaukee. So let's catch up here. I'm far behind. I'm going to check the email in a few minutes. Barry says, yeah, UPS has been put on my crap list. Paid $600 for a Mint Cobra. When it arrived, that delivered, it was been so careless that all the packages were tossed around. Yeah, that's also a sad thing when packages. Things got to be really, really well packed. Shipping of any company is like they're just throwing boxes around. Scan for letter here. No, I am not the live stream buzzer, the live streams thing. No, I ain't the guy behind that. John Beckham, what was the shortwave radio again that you were showing on a video while receiving Radio Romania? Was it 7375? That was the Ethon S350DL. The Ethon S350DL. David, KJ4CMY. Yep, usually politics are too political. Definitely. Definitely. Hey, radio is more interesting than most things in life. Not all of them, but most things can be equal to some other pleasures of life, like eating. And I won't go into the more other ones, but you know, Mike Jam, nice to have you here. Matt says, here's what solar activity does. I'm getting RWM on 4996. I've never gotten it on 4996 until recently. And it's gray line from near Moscow to Denver right now. That's cool. That is cool. Really cool. VT Radio, I hate it when people list items in unknown, untested conditions and then ask for ridiculous money. And the worst part of that one is that untested equals it's not working. I'm sorry. You can turn on a radio and see if it gets signals. Don't tell me I don't know how to use it, so I don't know. No, come on. It simply means it's not working. Dimitri, what are the main reasons for prices on eBay that are too high? You know what? I think it has to do with a lot of people trying to, there's all the fees around how eBay works that probably got higher. So as fees get higher, just look at Amazon. Amazon announced this week that not only is Amazon Prime getting more expensive for us buyers, but they're charging a percentage, a fee to the sellers now because of the extra, gas prices and the shipping and all. This is the spiral that destroys an ecosystem of buying. eBay is in there. It's like they used to have, kind of reasonable fees. Then they started having all sorts of hikes of fees and in the ways that you're selling stuff. And that is one part, lowers the amount of money people make on selling something. And I think there's just I don't know, there's this craziness of vintage. That's the word, vintage. You get something which is, um, very common from the 80s or 70s. Something that you go to a flea market, you're bound to have a few of them. You go to a ham fest, there are going to be 10 of them in the ham fest. But rare vintage. And they put that price. It's like, this is rare vintage. You're never going to see that anywhere. I'm sorry, but rare vintage, there's only a few models that actually, or a few things that actually are rare vintage. Yes, there are some, but those are not everything listed on eBay. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to make an insane amount of money over people. And you know what? I guess they can, because I'm sure there's some guy somewhere that, I owned that when I was 15, and man, I want to have it back, and I don't care, I'm going to pay that $700 for it. It's sad, because if it was possible to just hang in there and tell everybody, don't buy the really ridiculous prices would go down. But the fact that prices, are going up on some of the stuff is because somewhere someone's buying it. It's like everything, look at concert tickets and the scalpers. There's the official site where you sell tickets, but there's that other site that resells tickets that were purchased in the first place at the regular price for a higher price, which I always thought should be illegal. These guys should be jailed. These guys should not even have a website. This is the price of stuff. It's like, imagine that you go to the grocery, but they're telling you, oh, by the way, everything in the grocery was purchased by that guy that sells all of it on his website, which is a new grocery, for 3 times the price for everything. I don't think people would be happy, and it would not be acceptable. It shouldn't be for basic stuff. It shouldn't be for anything, including vintage radios. People trying to be greedy. That's where we are at, unfortunately, right now. DJ Corduroy. Fortunate because I can hear most everything you can on shortwave. Being just south of Montreal and New York. Yeah, that's because you don't have a lot of noise around you. Matt, some people are nostalgic for old receivers, and some were awesome when they were in top shape. Others may be under the impression that those old receivers are better, though. There is that sense of those things are better than today. There's a lot of people that have that sense of, those radios were much better than what we have today. I got to say that I got 2 great examples of very, 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 very expensive receivers here: the Kenwood R5000 and the ICR 8500. They're great. They were great for the days. They're not impressive compared to quite a few of the radios I have that are much less expensive today. Let's just put it like that. Dimitri, always looking for a reasonable price on the radio sells online. Sometimes they have good deal considering including the shipment. People listening to 5800, which is Voice of Mongolia. Vienno Marcel. Salut, nice to have you here from Bathurst, New Brunswick. Bienvenue. Vienno Marcel. RJ Dakota has Radio New Zealand Pacific. You mean 15720 rather than 730? Francis Moore, nope, no QRP for now, but that would be something fun, especially if I learn my Morse code. And Morse code, it would be kind of fun. Marc Jutra can talk about noise all day, living in Montreal, trying to do QRP ham radio with the noise at S8. Yeah, I feel for you. I feel for you. I feel for you. So sorry, Bobby. You did a good job. I'm wrong, and once again, I'm gonna mind my own business, guys. I'm sorry. I put you guys moderators because I know that you do the job right. What else we have? Matt as RWM on all 3 frequencies. Wow, that is cool. I haven't tried 14996. I'm going to try it just for out of curiosity. But nope. But I am getting WWV on 15 though. Let's see 20. 20. I'm not getting 25, but I'm getting WWV on 20. And on 15. Pretty good on 15. I'm hearing very weakly, but I'm even hearing the WWVH women in 15. Jose Heriberto Almonte. Nice to have you here from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Pretty cool. Greg, old shortwave receiver with SSB. I would spend $30, $40. Yeah, depending on the radio, but for a lot of radios, I wouldn't spend that much money, I got to say. Kevin Murray, nice to have you on board. Living Radios, having even a Radio R108 will really pull in some broadcasts. Absolutely. Scan for letter here says most of the radios you can buy are essentially glorified SDRs with transmit capabilities and hardware. John Beckham, I believe that the MLA30 is the perfect antenna for the Xing if space is a premium. Pretty much. You know, it's the lowest noise possible antenna, and it is definitely the if you don't have any space or very small space, it's your best bet to get some shortwave listening. Pretty much. So what else do we have? Black Knight, nice to have you here. Says Texan for me. Yep, pretty good. I mean, you know, a Texan H501X is such an amazing radio. It beats most of the old stuff. I can tell you that. What else do we have? Yeah, when I talk too much, there's a lot of delay. When I start talking, it's like I get behind real bad. Joe Austin, nice to have you here from Massachusetts. Michael Andrew, Texan 330, and my future DX440 under the knife. Are you interested in DX satellite from C or KU band? Or it's like, not really, but from the ham radio. More of the ham radio low Earth orbit satellites. I like the repeater ones, particularly all the ones that have, you know, those SSB inverted repeaters and things like that. Kind of find it cool. Kind of find it really cool. Let me try to catch up as fast as possible. George Johnson, the X is for export. It has a different configuration pre-programmed in when you get it. And the export version usually has an English manual where the 501 might not. That's why. Mad Reader DXer, yeah, forgot cordless and mobile phones before it was digital. I got boring after a while through these because most people talk boring stuff. Oh, you know, listening to cordless phones and to the mobile phones showed us how boring people are. It's like you listen to that and it's like, yeah, right, that's boring. What I've probably was the most amazed in the day is two things. Actually, one of the most amazing things is people not understanding that they're on wireless open microphones, buying stuff with their credit cards back in the day. I would be curious how many people got their credit card, you know, stolen and have purchases put on them because they were actually using them on either the mobile phone or the cordless phone that everybody was hearing back then. I'd be very curious to know. I'm sure there are people that got, you know, purchases on their cards because of that. But what I found the most interesting is, especially where I lived back then, the cell tower. There was a bar at the corner of the street where I lived that was known as, you know, a pretty shady bar, and all the drug dealers were there and stuff like that. And you know, everybody was talking about it. It's like, yeah, that's the kind of shady bar of the place. What do you know? All the drug dealers go there. So it's like I had conversations all day long about drug trafficking and all sorts of things. And I was like, okay. And the other one, and what I like the most, is on the weekends. You go around 11 p.m. or midnight, 1 a.m., and you hear all of those guys and all of those girls on the all the, you know, the call-in places where you would hook up with other people. It's like, you know, let's try to find love tonight. That was always funny. I always, you know, especially in the days, it was like that vocal thing. It's like you would like give a message to somebody and they would actually reply back in a message, a voice message. And man, I laughed my head off. I remember particularly a few nights, and it was with my brother, and we were playing games on the Commodore, and me and my brother would be laughing our head off because we would be listening to the guys calling those hookup sites or phone numbers. Because back in the day, the internet didn't exist. So, you weren't going to hook up through some website. You were calling a number and you would, hook up through these call places. And I mean, it's like, yeah, well, my name is Robert, and I'm 5'9", and I'm a professional, and I'm very good looking, and you sound nice. Yeah, you sound nice. You have no picture. It's like, you sound cute. I can tell you one thing: between the sound of the voice and what people look like, yeah, there's a big difference. But the back and forth thing of, yeah, well, I'm a secretary and blah blah blah. It was just so funny. Me and my brother would laugh, and we would play games and laugh our head off and listen to that for, when it would end, and we would like just scan until we find another call for some of these hookup sites. We had a lot of fun with that back then. B Bob, nice to have you here from Tulsa, KE5URE. 11 radios. Shell really tests radios all the way through. You can depend on his reviews, as I have over the years. Oh yeah, I compare them and give my impression based on also how each other react and how they are with each other, for sure. So I try to be fair. I mean, nobody's paying me to talk about a radio. So if a radio is crappy, it's crappy. If I get a radio, if I get a new Texan radio next week, and it's a crappy thing, I'll say it. It's a crappy radio. I can tell you that. Joe Austin from Massachusetts. Nice to have you here. Alexander, want to go to bed, but I'm enjoying the show too much. Daniel, nice to have you here from Argentina. LW3DEJ. Pretty cool. Living radios. When you fall in love with radios, even the color of the LED display is like the color of a woman's eyes. I like that. It's kind of a yeah. There's a sexiness for it for sure. What time do I finish GMT? Well, there's no time limit to our shows. So they can last 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. It depends on how things go and what I have to talk about. We often go roughly at 3 hours. 3 hours would bring this to 03 UTC or GMT. Donald Anderson, what's the most particular event you experienced listening to communications? There are quite a few. Daniel says, mine was when a former president was transferred in a police helicopter to be tried in court, and several pirates got on the frequency to insult. There were a lot of stuff that I've heard over years. I would have been more if I had more knowledge on many of those things, but I don't know what I could pick out. But there's a lot of emergency communications. One of the most, I'd say, one of the events that I lived through radio that was so intense was in somewhere in the 90s. There was a scanner net that had radio and on Sunday evenings. Actually, Sheldon Harvey was the controller net. I still remember that at one point, one guy came up and gave us a shortwave frequency for marine communications from the Coast Guard. And there was a boat on fire in the Atlantic, and we could hear the communications of trying to help people as the boat was on fire and sinking. And it was like a movie. I mean, in my head, I had images of flames and the fire and a boat, and it's like, I imagined the scene and how they were saving people and stuff, and there's an explosion, and it's very, very detailed. Things like that you never forget over time. One that I've talked about a few times, 2, 3, 4 years ago, a little more, maybe 5 years ago. The video's on the channel on that one. in the 17 megahertz range, just above the international broadcast band of 16 meters, 17,950 or something. I'm hearing a Caribbean communications of air traffic control, and there's a passenger on board that's having a heart attack, and they make a phone patch with a doctor. And I mean, you're in the middle of the of real life events happening, and that can still happen. I mean, there's a lot of air traffic control comms that you can listen to, and so you can still be part of the action today on shortwave. It's You just have to listen in and listen to everything you can do. Pretty crazy. And of course, there's shortwave broadcasts of historical events on 40 years. There's a lot of that going on. Pretty crazy. Michael Lancher, the warmth of tubes and smell, it's like food. Weird as that sounds. Yeah. Even though it's probably burnt dust, the smell is great. You know what? I watched just um out of, just, you can't explain it while you watch that. Last night I was in a smart TV here when I was searching for information about, for my videos on shortwave past and present. I was also looking for clips of audio of different stations, and that I could use the audio in my video to help and enhance the video and having some historical facts and real broadcasts of the times. But when you search for radio stuff, you fall through all sorts of things. And one of them was, of course, a guy that I watched so many times that a lot of you probably know, Mr. Carlson's Lab. The guy is like, repairing radios and all sorts of electronic stuff. Well, he came across a radio that was a um, high sensitivity 6 tube receiver from like the 1950s that didn't work. And the video was like an hour and a half. I spent a full hour and a half glued to the screen watching him go through the radio, see him change the capacitor and checking what tube is broken and all the things that he did. And part of it was because of my own knowledge that I wanted, because I got a couple of American 5 tube radios here that have buzzing problems and all of that. I picked up some interesting stuff because, for example, there's one here that I know that the capacitor it's a paper capacitor. It needs to be changed. What I was wondering is, yeah, but it's got 3 pins. Capacitors have 2 usually. And I was wondering, okay, but it's got 3 pins. How do you replace that with a modern capacitor? And I saw his fix yesterday where he uses 3 different capacitors, the way that he plugs them in and solders them together to replace that paper capacitor. And I'm like, okay, that's how he does it. Oh, okay. So, it gives you ideas. And now, of course, it gave me the idea of, wow, I want to take out that radio and replace that paper capacitor now because I saw what the guy does. So I spent an hour and a half watching a guy repair a 6 tube radio. It was kind of funny. And like the other day, I spent about an hour watching a guy fix a VIC-20, how he was actually checking out the different signals to fix a VIC-20. It's like, okay. You get hooked to these things sometimes. It's like, yeah, okay. 11 radios, the crisp amber of the 501X backlighting or the sound of the Drake R8 when it's sync locked and giving you such clarity and sensitivity. Sounds almost romantic. Dimitri, Jill, have you a good, interesting stories? When you did hearing on the ham bands? I can't say, on the handbands themselves, most of what I got interested in and probably heard over time is mostly, especially in the handbands, mostly nets of different sorts. I remember when there was the famous shortwave listeners net, that Anarch was doing back in the, I believe, late 80s, early 90s on 7240, stuff like that, which is kind of interesting. You know, BT Radio. I look at both Anchor radios on eBay. Most require an external speaker. So it says it powers on, but I can't get any sound out of it. Yeah, I know. I know. You look at that and you're like, yeah. I see tubes glowing. Yeah, doesn't mean it works. Greg, old shortwave with SSB, I would spend $30 to $40, $50 at the swap meet. You might find something. Look at what's there. Mad Radio DX, you know the drill. If someone buys a vintage radio for a high price, then others will follow suit. More so those that despise made in China electronics. And there's a lot of that actually going on. You guys should see the amount of hate comments I get on the Shortwave channel because I talk about what they call cheap Chinese crap radios. And you look at that and you're like, yeah. And not counting the amount of people that come to me and says, I'll never buy a Chinese radio. The worst part of it is I understand the basics and the fundamentals of all the politics of China. The thing is, China's the manufacturer of the world. We let it do that because we are all responsible for that happening. Now it's there. Am I, because of all I hear, going to stop buying a Texan radio because of that? You know what? No. No, because I'm not responsible for that happening. And whether I buy it or not, somebody else is going to buy it anyway. So what could I change? Nothing. And no, we're not going to stop buying Chinese stuff tomorrow because your iPhone and your smartphones, most of the smartphones and most of the stuff you buy and that big screen TV you're happy to have is all made there. You're going to stop buying electronics and just live with your old $50, 40, 30-year-old stuff. You're not. So it's a mix. I understand the reasoning and the sadness behind some stuff. But when somebody's like, I'm never buying from China, you are buying from China every single day. You just don't know it. What else do we have? My Jam, if you buy anything old off of eBay, make sure you have free return shipping if it's broken. That is also something to be careful. Very, very, very careful. Absolutely. John Beckham, I enjoy your video series on Rye Radio. As I remember back in the day, Rye Radio was always sending me mail. It's the funny thing. Rye Radio, the Italian radio service, I always had a hard time getting anything out of there. So when I got my first QSL, I was so happy. Oh, God. Hey, VT Radio, take care, Paul. AA1SU, see you soon. See you soon. Wonder what you would pick up with a great shortwave set out in the middle of the Atlantic. Well, being in the middle of a big ocean of water, a big body of water, salt water, shortwave signals so if you're in the middle of the Atlantic, shortwave signals from the Americas, from Europe and Africa, all the stuff coming there, especially if let's put it at there is no noise. I'm on the desert island. You're going to get a lot of stuff. You're going to get medium wave signals from everywhere. You're going to get so many things. That is also why do you think the Ascension Island transmitter site is on an island in the Atlantic Ocean? Why was Radio Canada International in the middle of salty marshland in New Brunswick in Sackville? Just gives you immediately the reasoning that these are the best places for not just sending but receiving radio signals. from everywhere. Good night, Christian Marcoux. Take care, my friend. What else do we have? John Beckham, solar flare activity, WWV 25 megahertz. Ronnie Isahak says ARL website has the amateur radio band plans that can be printed out and really helps tune into frequencies to listen to, or if licensed to operate. Absolutely, there's nice chart. Absolutely. 11 radios. That's why we love you. You show us the real deal. Have I used your SDR Play? Yes, RSPDX. I used to have an RSP1A that Sheldon Harvey has now, but also now I use the RSPDX. I've listened to ham satellites through that, through the AirSpy HF Plus Discovery, stuff like that. Timur Ostrowski, nice to have you on board from Alberta. Alberta. What else do we have? Just going to check it out here. David KJ4CMY for me was listening to the last broadcast of Radio Berlin International before Germany was reunited. I also heard a number of GDR long-wave stations that were now Deutsche Welle. Interesting. There's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of things that happened historically, and I'm in the 40 years. I missed some of it. Not realizing, as a teenager particularly, not realizing some of the events and how important they were and what's happening, pretty crazy. Rifleman 336, one of the most harrowing radio emergency calls that I've heard was in mid-air collision between a B-52 and a KC-135 refueler over the Pacific. That must be pretty dramatic, I gotta say. Francis Moore, so funny. We used to hear the same chat ups on the CB in the UK back in the day. Andrew DX, the worst I heard was during a riot when some protesters threw Molotov at the police. One of the Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you here from Greenfield Park, Quebec. One of the moments, we are at the forefront of listening and understanding a lot in our hobby. One of the things that I remember being a witness with radio to was it 1994-ish, that the Montreal Canadiens won the Stanley Cup. There was that night, definitely, everybody went to the streets, but there were troublemakers in there that were, breaking everything and stealing. I still remember the voice of the police officers on the frequencies. The problems of communications that were visible, that, your system is not capable of handling the high load of communications that come in at the same time right now. And seeing and hearing, actually, I could imagine the despair of some of the policemen that were stuck in there, that didn't know what to do, that couldn't get help. A lot of our radio listening puts us at the forefront of something happening that is major, that you actually realize later on. And that night when it happened, I was sitting with my scanner radios in my kitchen. I remember I had more than one. They were all on different police frequencies, and I could understand why that was so inefficient, the way that the communications was done, and how why they were in such deep trouble because of the inability to communicate. And I'm not an expert. Well, some might say yes, but I'm not an expert in communications. Not like those guys that have those diplomas and that build these transmitters and there's repeaters that supposed to know what they're doing. Um, but it was obvious. Okay, it's obvious that system is incapable of dealing with the high level of communications needed now because of what's happening. And I'm pretty sure that nothing has changed. I'm pretty sure that today, in a massive, event, that they still have have difficulty communicating. The only difference today is that maybe because there's cell phones and stuff like that, that could kind of help and save some of the communications. Um, Barry, I saw that video too. It was really cool. I would love to send my vintage Sony reel to reel to Mr. Carlson. 11 radios, buy an oscilloscope, signal injector, and great volt meter, and build an FM radio and AM radio. It's amazing to build one with your own hands. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Take care, Tom the Xer. No problem, Chaz Tank. Welcome back. 11 radios, when you're a radio nerd like me, holding a powerful, cool, sensitive radio, incredible design. Yep. Yep. It's kind of cool. Definitely. Definitely. TB Ostrowski remembers building a crystal radio set in grade 4. Maybe that's how I got hooked to radio. Possibly. I wouldn't be surprised that Dad did it. It doesn't take much when you're in it, and you figure out that you have these invisible signals all over the place that are coming in. An update on RWM signal in Moscow, time signal station. 4996 is now gone. 9996 is fair, and 14996 is very strong. So that's interesting. Let me try it. I'll try it again here. I'm going to try 14996. Got nothing. You're definitely in a good spot because I don't hear none of it here. Meryl, KK4 HFG. My dad bought me a crystal radio set from Radio Shack when I was a kid. He also bought me a handheld CB. I think that's what started the addiction. And I think it has to do with our curiosity, personal curiosity. It has to go in hand in hand. Just look at when the first multi-band radio arrived and when my dad had purchased. He was kind of curious, but my dad was the kind of guy that he would play around with a little bit and never really, he would get bored after a day or two. And I think there's a lot of not understanding what he was actually dealing with. My dad was not very educated, and his reading skills were, bare minimum. So, I remember when there were some things to read or things to, instructions. The first thing it would do is hand over the paper to me, and it was like, can you read the instructions and understand what they want us to do? The first VCR we got, I mean, he wanted to program it to record, a movie that was playing in the middle of the night. And I still remember he just handed me the paper and he said, you know what? I have no idea what to do. I don't understand it at all. And he handed me the paper and was like, okay, well, you go here and you press that button. This is the time. You got to remember the AM, PM thing. It was a very complex procedure, I remember, with buttons. Very, very complex procedure. And then the success of having it work. But I think he just didn't really totally understand what he had and what he could do and what he was hearing also. On the other hand, I was a curious guy, but we are all different. My brother was also at home. My brother was zero interested in that radio. He didn't care about that radio. He didn't want even to tune the radio. Why is it that he didn't care when I was the guy that found it fascinating? What was the difference? What's the difference between me finding it fascinating and him not really caring for it? And that, I think there's also that difference in who we are as radio geeks. Not only are we got hooked, but something inside us is also attracted to the mystery of radio and getting signals with invisible waves. It's something we can't explain. I think it's the same reasoning, the same attraction. Why are we attracted to a certain person? Why is that guy or that girl so attractive to us? Can you explain it? Nope. It's that. You just know it. Your hormones are there. It's like, yeah, I want that guy, I want that girl. You can't explain it. There's no explaining. It's a chemical in our brain that a mix of chemicals that's the way it is. And I think it's exactly that same mix of chemicals that you're attracted to radio and love it and are fascinated like we are, or you just don't care about it at all. It's really something we can't explain. It's funny. Dave Conti, I don't know if anyone has ever checked an old National Geographic magazines, but I did when I was a teenager, and they used to have tons of ads for shortwave radios. Oh, man. Keegan DX, when I see Mr. Carlson, I think, oh, yeah, Mr. Carlson and WKRP. Not exactly the same type of guy, though. Mad Max 2016. I learned when I worked at Sears that just because it says made in USA or assembled in USA doesn't mean that. Yeah. Doesn't mean that. There's a certain percentage of the product can be made and assembled in China and still have. Yep. It's like Seacrane that enjoys saying, well, design in USA. Yeah. Yeah, might have been designed there, but it's made by Redson in China. It's a Chinese radio. It's just the design that was made, Al H, you're right about China. Remember, Japan made some really good radios in the past. I think the Icon is still made there. Yeah, it's a question of time, depending on the prices we want to pay also, because that's a lot of what deals with that also. Women radios. If I fall asleep, my hand on the radio, it's not like it's sexual. It's just, no, there's nothing sexual. I hope not. It's really something just, you like it. That's what you like. That's what you love. Team Ostrowski, 1989, pretty amazing time for shortwave broadcasts. Absolutely. The people that were listening to Radio Kuwait and the people apparently calling for help on the air while Iraq was invading Kuwait, stuff like that. Take care, John Beckham. Take care of that cat. Do take care of that cat. Sheldon Harvey, 1993 was the last time they won the Cup, Stanley Cup, and probably the last time they will ever win the Cup. So that was the 1993. But I still remember the cops' communications that night. Man, that was they were calling for help, and they were totally unprepared. RJDA Dakota heard one of the very first Voice of Russia broadcasts after Radio Moscow went through something like a format change. Yep, I liked Voice of Russia. They were kind of nice. That it was that little time frame when still things were kind of okay. I didn't like Voice of Russia the last year they broadcast on shortwave. I was moving away. Radio Moscow had its own feel and its own thing of the Cold War, and the way that it broadcasted was somehow acceptable. I don't know if you guys will understand what I mean, but they did it in a way that even if we were in a Western nation, you would still want to hear Radio Moscow. Then Voice of Russia, when the USSR broke apart, which was kind of nice, kind of an okay broadcaster. And then came the end with the last year or two of Radio Moscow before they became the Radio Sputnik thing. And it was degrading to a point where it was unlistenable. And it was not even the quality or the grade of Radio Moscow. It was pure propaganda crap, unlistenable at all. And I still remember the last year. So when they left, yeah, it was sad to have radio, Voice of Russia leave. But at the same time, it was so crappy bad that it was like, better off shortwave than having that. It was, that was my personal feel of it. Man, what else do we have? Check it out here. Take care, Living Radio. Stay safe. 3:26 in the morning. It is late. Sean bought the cheap Prentice based on your review, and I got lots of stations on the shortwave bands. Barry, you still have a crystal set here. It works. Built it when I was 10 years old. Mark Trager has 14,996 strong into southeast Wisconsin right now. Cool. Zen Pharaohs, I'm determined to eat a cupcake now with a glass of milk. I won't try to stop you. Actually, sounds if it would be possible, I'd tell you to send one my way. Jeffrey Porter, thanks for the great show. Let's go play radio operator now. Take care, my friend. Nice to have you here. Gilles, your Ethan shortwave receiver that you had on YouTube video yesterday. Ethan would be DXing on a medium wave band, and good DXing on your Ethan is cool. So yeah, it's a nice little radio. Nice little radio. Barry, I think your brother may have thought that, hey, radio is Gilles gig, and he felt it wasn't his passion. Artisan Crafters says, both my brother and I got a radio addiction from our father as an engineer. That was not the best teacher, but his excitement for the hobby was contagious. So, Michael, oh my God, now I'm going searching. I know no cupcakes, but maybe a Chips Ahoy. Aha. Francis Morgan Knight, take care. Another great broadcast. And yep. Says my father made me a crystal radio, and the antenna was the metal window catch opener, and it worked. Picked up BBC and Radio Caroline Pirate. Cool. Rob says, I love radio because it makes me feel connected to others and events, either near me or far. Yep. There's an excitement for that for sure. Take care, the Rifleman 336. Oh, no Chips Ahoy. What a deception. RJDA Dakota, Radio Moscow was communism light. Yeah, probably. They weren't pushing it. It was not Radio Tirana. It was, let's just subtly talk about communism without shoving it in their face in a way that they're going to be, they're not going to want to listen. And they were very successful. I don't know who or how the concept of Radio Moscow came through back then, but whoever or whatever gang of people were thinking about how Radio Moscow should sound on the air were great in understanding how it should sound to us so that we are happy to listen to them and want to listen more. I can tell you that. Dave Conte, Radio New Zealand, starting to get in 15720. Pretty cool. TV Ostrowski says Joe Adamov on Radio Moscow. That's classic. Absolutely. That is classic. Pretty crazy. Dimitri, what I interesting in the radio hobby is the ham band. Most is people conversation talking across the country. Michelangelo has a tape of me or wishing the U.S. a happy new year. Oh, that's cool. That is very cool. That is very, very cool. Gary Pence, nice to have you here. What else do we have? And Pharaohs, NHK just had a happy birthday song, part of which I posted on a Facebook group. Huh. Apparently for John Bon Jovi. Okay. Oh, well. Oh, well. Keegan DX lock stations like 89.3 KCUR. Oops, you just removed it. Honey Graham crackers. I bought those last week or 2 weeks ago because of you guys. I don't know if you guys remember. You were talking about it. It's like, hey, I want to have some. I actually bought a box, that I hate. I completely ate the box. RJDA Dakota, Radio Moscow Programming Department must have been doing well. Yep. Gary Pence, no problem. KM5X in Dallas. Artist Outcrafter's Kitchen. Radio Moscow was fun to listen to, but that low hum in the background of the broadcast drove me nuts. And that has to do also with the equipment you use, because depending on the radio you use, you hear it more or less. So that hum was very low frequency. If you had any type of radio with a lot of bass response, you were hearing that really well. The radios I used were not really good on the bass frequency response. I would hear kind of a hum, but it was not enough to really, drive me crazy. HSOJ95, have you having issues getting stations in the mid 9,000 kilohertz range? Wanted to hear Radio Romania. A 31 meter band was all kinds of fuzzed out. One of the first things about Radio Romania is that on their evening broadcast, 9 megahertz, it's often not there. And I know Radio Romania has been having transmitter problems, so not all their frequencies are on all the time. But as for 9 megahertz in general, like right now, if I look quickly, I got WWV on 10. I've got 99.75, 99.40. A lot of stuff on that part here. 9700, which sounds like Radio Romania in Spanish. 9650. China Radio from Cuba, 9580. Something on 9535. Something on 9440. WRMI 9395. WBC Q9330. And that's pretty much what I have. There's a few stations. See you Saturday, Greg. 11860 is usually Radio Marti. So yeah, that's the Cuban Jammer in 11860. Radio Marti is there all day long, so they're jamming 11860. And so that's the jammer that's pretty strong, actually, on 11860 right now. What else do we have? Barry loves watching Urban Explorer videos, but what kills my heart is when they explore an old house and there is an old Grundig floor model shortwave just rotting away. Yes. John Beckham, yes, I do like graham crackers. Take care, Al. It was nice to have you here. Michael Langer, Nabisco butter cookies. You guys are making me crave for cookies or something now. Your fault. I'm going to get fat because of you guys. Then again, you guys spend money because of me on radio, so maybe it's fair. A fair trade. Take care, Dave Conti. That explains why 41-meter band broadcast for Radio Romania was super clear. Yeah, that 31-meter band frequency isn't always there. They're having some transmitter issues. 7375 is always rock solid, but the 31-meter band frequency is always it's there or it's not. They have a lot of problems. Dan Ferrero's jamming it is, Dan, but I've never heard the jamming anywhere near that loud. Yeah, it's pretty good tonight. Absolutely. HSO says, fun fact, last night managed to pick up BBC World Service from Oman on 9740 at 03 UT, which is good. Should try it again tonight, honestly. So, yeah, 9700. I haven't checked the schedules here, but I believe it sounded like Romania, but it could be some other station. If I go here on EIBI and check out 9700, because that was in Spanish, 9700. It's so 01 to 05. That's in English. It's Cuban English, but that was not English. That was Spanish. It's definitely 02 to 03. That's where we are. 02 to 03. Radio Romania in Spanish. It's I guessed because when I hear the accent when they talk, it gave away that it sounds like Romania, and I'm getting really, really good at actually finding Radio Romania in whatever language, because I just listened for like 15 to 20 seconds, the way that it is, the voice of that female announcer, and I'm like, oh, that must be Romania. John Bacon says, sold me on the Radio Wow brand and Seawadon brands. Well, there's some good stuff out of there, I got to tell you. So, okay, guys, been on for 2 hours and 43. We're going to say good night for tonight, and hope that you enjoyed the show. It was a lot of fun. Can't wait to get my Panasonic RF B300 and show it off. It was shipped yesterday, but I don't expect it to have it before next week. But who knows? Maybe I could have it by Friday and have show you the good old Panasonic this Saturday. Maybe even tune around with it. That could be cool. So thanks, guys, for being here. Sorry once again to the moderators that I have offended tonight because I thought they were not doing a great job. Bobby Burgess, you did a great job. I am so sorry once again. And yes, no politics or anything, but pretty cool. Really nice to find all of you here. So we'll be back Saturday. We'll be checking out other stuff for shortwave radio and talking about radio in general. So take care, everyone. Stay safe and see you Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time, 4 p.m. Sorry, Kalo, but it's time to say goodbye. Bye, everyone.